Hey, what's going on? Good afternoon and welcome to Happy Hour with Ronnie, Phillips, and Friends. This is the second episode, and I'm really excited this week to bring on my second guest, I guess, to the show. First of all, I would be foolish as a business person if I didn't include sponsors, as I like to call them. And it's just a way to shamelessly plug my ventures I'm involved with. Commercial cleaning concepts you can find at cleaningbyc3.com. Also Heartland Waterfowl, which is our TV show on Sportsman Channel. You can also find us at heartlandwaterfowl.com. And our newest venture that I've teamed up with my wife on called Zaya Active. So that being said, make sure you check back. We do this, or going to attempt to do this live stream on Thursdays at 4:00 Central Time. We are streaming live, not only on Facebook, but also YouTube, Periscope, and I think hopefully LinkedIn. I'm using kind of a back-end approach because LinkedIn isn't ready yet for me to stream on their platform. So I'm using the YouTube link and hopefully it's airing there. So that being said, we do get your comments. We would love to engage with you. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to comment, and we'd love to respond. That being said, let's get started. I'd like to introduce my good friend for many years, Mr. Brian Bandas. How are you, my man?
Man, I am so good, and I'm so happy to be here.
What'd you drink? What do you drink? Oh, wow. You got like a special little cocktail there.
Very fancy. Very fancy. Probably got these glasses at like TJ Maxx.
Did I see you put groceries in your drink? Is that how sophisticated you've gotten?
That's how sophisticated I am. This is a lime that I've been stretching out, about a wedge at a time for probably like a week and a half.
So you're doing a vodka? Is that what you're drinking today?
Gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic.
Yeah, that's not a year-round thing. That as it starts to warm up,
Gotcha. Just for special occasions like this.
That's exactly right, man. I'm like, Ronnie Phillips wants to talk to me.
Yeah.
Working out the good stuff.
I did the first episode with my buddy Blake Brock, and I did Jim Beam because I'm a Jim Beam guy. And this week, because I didn't get a Jim Beam endorsement, I'm trying to go for a Busch Light endorsement.
You're sticking it to Jim Beam is what
maybe if Jim wants to play nice, I'll come back next week.
That's right.
We'll see.
Right, man.
Well, look, man, let's get started. I just, this is nothing formal. It's just a fun little way for me to have some fun, keep my brands relevant during a time of quarantine. Nobody's buying anything, so I'm not selling anything. And so I wanted to offer some fun and engaging and compelling content. You and I have been friends for,
over 10 years now.
Exactly. I'll never forget it. So I think so. I've got so many fond memories of you and the guys from Love and Theft. I think I was the guy who interviewed you at Q104 when you guys were doing your radio tour.
Yeah.
And you came through the station, and I remember us talking about how you came up with the name Love and Theft. I also remember, you may not remember this, but this makes me smile and kind of chuckle.
I'm saying what you're about to say right now.
I know, right? Your wife's not around, is she? No, it's not that bad. No, the funny thing is it involves my wife.
Okay.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
No. Okay. So you guys, you, Steven and Eric played Birthday Bash at Whiskey Tango in Grand Valley, Missouri. And if you remember, of course, Birthday Bashes, there was nothing sober about them. And there was a little party bus that was out back. It was kind of like a little hangout place. And after you guys got done, we were out there. I wasn't even dating my wife at the time. We had been friends, but she had come to the Birthday Bash and we were hanging out, and I'd been trying to date her for a very long time. And so she'd kind of like warmed up to me a little bit, or she had a few drinks and warmed up to me that night. And
whatever it takes. I mean, that's fine.
Exactly. And so we ended up going on to this little, it wasn't a tour bus, but it was like just this little party bus, and we're hanging out, having drinks.
It was almost like the size of like a trolley to the hospital or something, right?
Yes. It's exactly. But it had party lights in it. I think even had a pole in it. And so we get in there, and these guys, who I have no idea who they were, start talking to my now wife, who wasn't even someone I was dating at the time. And I'm getting so bummed out. Man, I've been trying to date this girl for years. And now someone's coming in and swooping in. And you saw something and you were like, hey, dude, are you okay? And of course, again, there was nothing sober about that night. And I'm like, man, I've been trying to date this girl, and these guys go, man. You're like, oh, don't worry, man, I'll take care of it. And you went over there and talked to these guys, and they're like, hey, man, this is my guy. This is my buddy Ronnie, and he's been trying to, hook up with this girl. Hookup's probably the wrong term to use, but we'll use it for just the lack of better words.
To be friends with her.
Yeah. And you came in, and do you remember this?
No, but
you saved the day.
No.
You saved the day.
Hell yeah.
And so they were like, yeah, no problem, man. And they walked off. And so Rachel and I hung out the rest of the night. And make it a funny story even funnier. I went up to her at the end of the night and said, hey, I've been trying to date you for a long time. What do you want to do here? Are you interested or are you not? And she's like, oh, I'm real focused on my career. Shut me down. I'm like, that's it. Well, this was a 2-night birthday bash. You guys played the first night, and then there was going to be the next night. And the next night, she ended up showing up with a guy with the tickets that I gave her.
She was trying to make you jealous, though. She was trying to make you jealous.
I don't know what it was. But anyway, so she ended up ditching the guy that night. Clay Walker's on stage. I do a stage dive during the encore at Whiskey Tango, and I'm crowd surfing. I end up getting dropped. I don't realize it. I fall on a broken beer bottle. I get up, I'm slapping high fives, going through the crowd. As the crowd kind of opens up, there she is. And I'm like, oh, geez. Yeah, I just got shit on. I got to say hi to this girl. I kind of reach my arm around her, give her a half-hearted hug. And she puts her arm around me. And she goes, oh, my God, Ronnie, you're bleeding. I had fallen on that broken. So I run out, get on Lee Bryce's bus. And I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm just gushing blood. And she ends up taking me to the hospital to get stitches.
Florence Nightingale, where like the nurse is taking care of the guy and falls in love with him.
Ditch is the dude that she came to the show with, and we've been together ever since.
Basically, you have me to thank for your entire marriage, and I'm more than happy to apply. So that like very vaguely rings a bell. Was Derek Neal that night? Did he play the night that we were playing?
I believe so.
That's the night I'm thinking of, because I think he might have ridden back with us, but they kind of run, it's hard to remember which is which.
Oh, I know. You guys did so many shows in Kansas City with us, and
we did, man.
A lot of good times.
That was one of our good spots. You guys were really good to us.
Oh, well, we enjoyed it. And I'm honored and humbled that we were able to, create a friendship. I can't personally say that my time in working in radio that I was able to establish significant relationships with all the artists, and there were a handful that I did, and Love and Theft was certainly. So I still have a great relationship with Steven and Eric. They were actually on an episode of Heartland Waterfowl with me a few years ago. They came in town to do a show, and it all worked out that they could come hunting with me. And so we still keep in contact. Steven FaceTimed me after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl to do a celebratory shot.
Oh yeah. We are still in the same fantasy football league that has been going on now for, if it started, I guess, in 07 or 08, 12 years. So we were actually all just texting and talking trash to each other. Oh, that's great. Yeah, honestly, man, I'm with you. I definitely left with a handful of relationships, but it was a select few. It was a select few. It wasn't everybody. When I got out of the industry, I don't even know that it means they're all assholes. Just some people, it was mostly a business relationship, and you figure that out once you're not in the same business.
Yeah. And some of those you find out the hard way, where you think you got a connection with this person, and then they turn out to backstab you or whatever. But I digress. Let's move into it. So we've been talking a lot about Love and Theft. That's how we met, when you were a member of the trio, and loved what you guys were doing. I've always given you guys amazing compliments about amazing compliments. I gave you compliments about your amazing harmonies, and loved what you guys were doing. So I guess that's kind of going to lead into the first question. You and I have had conversation about it. Me, Steven, and Eric have had conversation about it, but a lot of my followers are from my days in working at Q104. Yeah. And know you guys. Obviously, you played in Kansas City a lot. So you had this passion for music, and you are an amazing musician. I still see some of the lives that you do performing. So it's still a huge part of your life. So you put all of your eggs in that basket, and you are chasing the dream. It's an aggressive pursuit. And eventually you hit a time where you decided that this wasn't for me anymore, and you transitioned out of music out of the industry in Love and Theft.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Man, so there were really it was a two-phase thing. Phase one was leaving Love and Theft and leaving country music, and then phase two, a couple years later, was really walking away from music as a career altogether.
Okay.
And there were a lot of factors, but particularly with leaving Love and Theft, I moved to town. I actually did not move to town, much to probably a lot of people's surprise, to play country music. I grew up in Texas, so I certainly heard it and listened to it, but I wasn't a diehard country guy. I was really a Southern rock guy, and Love and Theft initially, we were really straddling that line. It was Eagles-ish, and a lot of our early demos could easily have been more of a rock thing.
Bob Dylan.
Absolutely, which the band name for those. And so that was fine when we were offered, I want to say 5 different record deals when we finally, we hit a certain point. We went and demoed for, played a live thing for ASCAP, and they called a bunch of people, and we immediately had, let's call it 8 or 9 label meetings, and got 4 or 5 offers. And, I'm 22 or 3, freaking broke as a joke. And honestly, just the mindset is you're going to pay me to play music? Yes. I don't really need to know anything else. Right. I didn't care about the details,
Sure.
As I grew, probably as a person, but at least as a musician, my passion for blues and rock and stuff like that just continued to grow. And what I found was that as the band grew, it was going here. And as I grew, I was going here. And that gap just got wider and wider. And I would play a show, probably like some of the ones that we did, and then go get on the bus. And we would play a show, and it would be us and the band Perry and Gloriana. And then I'd get on the bus and I'd be listening to Jeff Beck and Zeppelin, and it just started to feel more and more painful. I remember we played this huge festival with Tim McGraw, and the other side of the festival, I don't remember what city we were in, but basically 2 blocks away was the rock side of the festival. And so we played our set, and then instead of watching, Keith Urban or whoever it was, I went over and I saw a couple rock acts that I really, really liked. I remember just feeling this angst, this pain of I want to be on that stage. That's really where my passion is.
Okay.
And so I got to the point where I knew, okay, I'm not going to last that long. I really liked Love and Theft. And I'm still friends with those guys. So,
they say the same about you.
Yeah. So it wasn't, I hate what I'm doing, but the industry I was in, when I thought, oh man, we're putting all our effort into building up decades long career in an industry that I don't really want to be in for decades. That's not good. Mm-hmm. But what really happened though is not long after I started recognizing I was feeling this way and trying to figure out, okay, what's a reasonable sort of respectful way to handle this? All of a sudden, boom, our label shuts down, which you remember, Lyric Street Records shuts down. Basically, they brought in a new president of Disney Music. And so his first just mark that he made was he just shut down Nashville, the whole thing. They had Rascal freaking Flats. That's right. Just cut it off. So they didn't care about us. And so we did get an offer to sign with Sony, which the guys ended up doing. Mm-hmm. But basically I was at a point where all of a sudden the label shuts down. I'm supposed to sign with Sony, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm going, man, why am I going to sign, a 4, 5, 6 album deal with Sony when I am pretty sure that I'm going to end up quitting let's call it. So
this was an out for you.
Well, so it was an out, but it also felt wrong to go in and sign that deal. And
that's what I meant. I mean, it was an opportunity where you were already struggling inside. And so, so it was almost like a blessing in disguise, because you were already feeling like you were going to get out. And now this was your chance to make that decision, as opposed to having to wait and fill out your contract with Lyric Street.
I think it forced my hand. I mean, I don't think I would have made that decision that soon. But it's wrong to sign this deal and then make that same decision 8 months later, So
exactly.
Yeah, it was just sort of a natural, okay, well, I guess it's going to happen now. The funny thing is I wasn't really sure. And then our lawyer called me, and she basically goes, hey, head on over. The contract's here. Come sign it. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So literally like got off the phone with her and called Eric. And I was like, can we go get a beer right now? And instead of going to sign that contract, went and had a beer with Eric and told him that I didn't think I could keep going. And I feel, when I think about that, I do not regret that decision. I've literally never regretted it for a second in my life. It was the right decision. And I knew it at the time and I've never questioned it. But man, I felt really bad for them because they were really important to me.
Were they shocked?
Yeah, I think so.
Was there any signs? Like, had you ever had any prior discussions like, man, I'm not feeling this. I'm not sure if I can keep going? Or?
I don't think they were shocked that I was, I mean, they knew that I was obsessed with Hendrix and Zeppelin. And, you know, I don't think that it was news to them that there were things that I was like disgruntled about. I think that they were surprised that I actually walked away from a record deal with Sony.
Yeah.
And man, it was, so I felt bad because it was terrifying for me, but I had a choice and I made the choice and they didn't really have a choice to be put in the situation that I put them in.
Yeah.
I think at this point they've forgiven me for that. But man, that was hard and I felt really bad.
Sure.
And it was painful and scary.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this before. I guess you got into a few more details that I wasn't aware of, as far as the, how I guess I didn't really understand that. I thought you just kind of walked away when you were ready to walk away. I didn't realize the dynamic of, hey, there's the lyric streak coming to an end and Sony's coming to pick us up. And, oh my gosh, I need to walk out before I commit to something I don't really want to commit to.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And so had we stayed, let's say Lyric Street kept cruising, I mean, we had some good momentum and who knows, you know, I don't think I was weeks away from shutting that down. I think if nothing else, I was getting married at the time. We eventually, don't do the math, but had a little baby boy coming, you know? Right. So certainly had that not happened, I probably would have hung in for a while. If for no other reason than, okay, I'm going to maybe put together some savings and like try and set things up a little bit here.
Sure.
Did not get that luxury. So there were aspects of it that were pretty terrifying.
Well, you talked about two phases. I know that after you left Love and Theft, you still stayed in music. You were still kind of pursuing that genre, a different genre. And I remember that you came and I was shocked because I didn't realize that you were maybe filling in or at the, I don't even remember who.
I think I was filling in. I was doing a hired gun thing for Matt Gary, I want to say.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. Let me turn that off. Sorry. And I walk into the green room in the Power and Light District, and there you are tuning your guitar. And I'm like, what are you doing? and so it was great, obviously, to see you again. And then that's when you kind of explained to me that you were going to go down a different musical path. Yeah. So then, and before we get away from the music and talk about where then you left music and got into real estate, I do want to say that I want people to interact and comment. There are some comments coming in. We're going to check those in just a moment. But I talked to Brian about this yesterday, and we're going to take requests. And of these requests, Brian is going to pick one that he's going to perform live here on this live stream, you know, at the end sometime. So please feel free to engage, ask questions, make comments, make requests. A few of these are coming in. Well, let's just get to one. Every time Angel Eyes comes on the radio, I still belt it out. That's so awesome. Which was one of my favorite songs also.
Well, now here's the thing, man. That was their first number one. And that was also the first song they released right after I left. So that was an interesting experience. I left and they went number one. That's all they needed. They were like, finally, here we go.
Yeah.
Get this guy out of here.
Courtney chiming in, still listens to your guys' songs more than the new ones.
The trio ones. Yeah.
Yeah. And basically forgiving you for walking away from them, commenting again. Yes, it was. So she remembers that it was Matt Gary.
Yep.
So anyway, that's cool. Yeah. If you have comments or questions, feel free to chime in. Go ahead and make yourself another drink. Let's get on to leaving music after you decided then that you were going to I guess no longer pursue a different genre of music. Not that and I told you this on the phone, I don't want it to sound disrespectful because I have plenty of friends in real estate and they do very, very well. But you put all of your passion into music and you obviously are really, really good. You're a great pianist. You're a great guitar player. You're a great vocalist. Like you really worked on your craft for a long time to get where you were, to completely then walk away and then get into real estate. Why real estate?
Man, so I wouldn't even say, so there's a couple pieces there. The first thing is that I would say is that I didn't really choose real estate. I didn't leave music to get into real estate. Man, the interesting thing is that where my life is now is immensely and deeply fulfilling, and basically everything I can point to that makes it that way, I did not plan out. So real estate has been a blast, not just working as an agent, but really my passion has been investing. So I do development, I build houses and try and buy, investment properties. This is how prepared I am. I'm using a pen to stir my drink here.
It's all right.
I'm fancy like that. There we go. So I didn't really choose that. What I did choose was real estate investing. And I'm telling you, like the time after I left Love and Theft there was about a 5-year period that was really scrappy. Things did not go as planned. I left the band and I thought that I would work with one of the publishers we had relationships with. That didn't pan out. Started pursuing stuff through, with basically a rock band that I had, which I will say was a pretty damn good band. But didn't have the commercial appeal necessary to be successful.
Gotcha.
And so my wife's friend, her husband was in real estate, and I went to him because I was trying to do investing. Sat down and said, "Hey, here's what I'm trying to do. I've been like calling through Craigslist and trying to like hustle up these scrappy deals, right? Like calling Craigslist and going, hey, have you thought about selling your house like owner finance with no down payment to me?"
Yeah.
And I found 2 of them. I actually did 2 deals that way.
Really?
But hey, they worked and they made money.
Good for you.
So it's just this really like gritty sort of like just grind and hustle, right? And so I went and had a beer with this guy and said, I need somebody to help me. I don't even have like a sales contract to write, and I'm trying to do this. He goes, man, you should really, like, I like the hustle. You should come work for me. And I'm like, no, thank you. I don't really, I honestly thought probably what most people still think about real estate. I don't know. I didn't really know anything about it. And it just kind of seemed like, I don't know, lame.
Yeah.
Basically. I'm like, no, okay. See him again a couple weeks later. Man, I just really think you should work for me. And at the time I was still playing guitar and producing people. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I'll skip a lot of the philosophical discovery that happened. If we want to circle back to it, we can.
Yeah.
We'll
circle back.
Walking away from music. But ultimately, the morning after my last professional hired gig, we agreed to part ways. And the next morning I saw this guy at the Y. He goes, man, I know you're touring and playing. I really think we should work together. I'm like, well, I actually have no job and a wife and a child. So like, maybe we should sit down and talk, And man, so this guy, his name's Alex Helton. He has become my best friend in the world. I legitimately, when I first met him, did not like him. I actively disliked him.
Wow.
His personality is very different than mine.
Okay.
He was, at least when I first met him, kind of quiet and reserved. He just hit me the wrong way. I'm like, this freaking guy, like, what a asshole. Now he is like a brother to me, which is so funny how that works.
Right.
And, man, not only was it ended up being a really cool job, but he really, really saw gifts and talents in me that I did not know that I had. I didn't know about him. And he would go, man, do you realize like you're really good at A, B, and C? Why don't I have you start doing this for me? So I would take on this responsibility, and it would just work, man. I would like be crushing it. And so eventually, he put me in this leadership role on his company, and I'm sort of his one of 2 right-hand guys, I guess. I don't know. Maybe there's a right and a left. I don't know. But man, all the ways that it has worked out has really been stuff that I didn't foresee. It's really been a huge blessing.
Uh-huh.
But it goes back to some decisions to sort of let go of things that it probably took me 20 years to let go of,
Sure.
that opened those doors.
Wow.
Now I choose to do it because I'm good at it. It's fun and it is really entrepreneurial. It's creative and it's hustle based. And so I get up and I make my own luck, and I like that.
Right. Music being such a huge part of your life, have you ever used it being, taking some of the fame that you had from that, or the skill that you have with, playing multiple instruments, being a good vocalist, and found a way to leverage that to your success now as, regular business?
That's a good question. Not super directly, but I do think that the fact that I had some success in that arena, I think it's more indirect, but it definitely helps. Like, it gives me,
you have a story.
I have a story. It gives me some credibility. It gives me a little bit of, heck, man, I meet people who are maybe seen as a big deal. This is kind of a silly example, but I meet people who are sort of seen as a big deal, and I don't think it should be this way, but I have immediate credibility with them because they know that maybe I'm not like unreasonably impressed with them.
Gotcha.
I respect what they're doing, but I'm not enamored by status or something. I
get it. Totally get it.
I don't think it should be that way. They should just, like, everyone should just acknowledge everyone else's value. But that is the world we live in. Yeah, it is the world we live in. And so I do think that there are indirect places where, like, okay, so here's an example. The other day I had a great conversation with a guy who used to be a receiver for the Titans, right? Okay. We're talking for a while, and we're talking, he's starting to do some development as well. So we're talking about real estate investing, and similar stories where we did something we were really passionate about and now ended up in real estate investing. And I don't know this guy. I don't know if he's ever heard of Love and Theft or anything. And so probably a half hour into the conversation, I said, well, so I've had a similar experience. I had a career in music and da-da-da. And he goes, well, I Googled you beforehand. And the funny thing is, man, like, I didn't know it, but whether I know it or not, sometimes does give me credibility. I don't even know that it should, but it does.
Right.
So I think that I probably have a benefit of leverage that I often don't even know is happening. But I think that's probably true across the board, right? If you know someone really excelled in some arena, whatever, then there's just this sense of, like, this person knows how to push themselves. They know what it means to pursue excellence, and on some level they get it. And so it's probably just that. I don't know that it's unique to music, but I do think that, here's what I think. If I had, like, really climbed the ladder really well at some company, people may or may not actually know that by Googling it. What I did just happened to be very public. And so people very easily find out that I had what they consider to be success, and it gives me credibility.
Yeah, so it wasn't intentional. Any leverage that there wasn't intentional on your behalf. It was just kind of was part of the package.
Yeah, that is true. And there are times when I will find out later that it has benefited me, like that conversation. But I don't know that I've found a great way. In fact, the most direct way that I could have leveraged it, I probably missed the opportunity, which would have been immediately turning around to those relationships in the business and going, oh, here's what I'm doing now.
Right.
I went a long time without doing that, and I think I missed the boat on that. So
you were still trying to find your way, which is what we all try to do when we kind of enter the entrepreneurial arena, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was battling all kinds of crap there for a while.
So now that COVID-19 has arrived and the country is on shutdown, I have a neighbor who is in the mortgage lending business. And so we actually work out together in my home gym. Hi, Todd, if you're watching, by the way. So we're talking about that particular business all the time. So with the whirlwind that we're in right now, what kind of impact have you been seeing what kind of impact has real estate had with buyers seeking a mortgage?
Man. Okay. So let me start this by saying I'm not a lender, but I can give you some anecdotes and just things that I've seen.
But you're in the real estate, and I'm saying as far as buyers wanting to go and get a loan and get a mortgage for a new property. Yeah.
Some effect for sure. not dramatic. And the other thing I'll say is that a lot of this is localized. So what I'm seeing in Nashville may not be what you guys are seeing in Kansas City or what they're seeing in LA or whatever. There are some, like, one of the things that I've seen that's a pretty black and white thing is that certain income, a lender just won't count, because they're going, hey, you're self-employed and you run a hair salon and you're not allowed to be open, so I can't write you a loan assuming you're making income on something that I know for a fact you're not legally doing. Right. So some of that self-employed income certainly has, and I think that's temporary. You know, Tennessee supposedly is potentially opening back up on May 1st. And I don't know for sure, but maybe on May 2nd, like, the lenders start counting it again, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So there have been some, but I will say, at least in Nashville, real estate is not, it's definitely not crashing and burning. It, you know, it has a little, but it's still pretty strong. I mean, again, that's just anecdotal, but I think probably the biggest effect is job loss. And that's, you know, that's not a new lender guideline. You got to have a job.
Well, right. Yeah, I would agree that there's really not a significant difference here, unless you're wanting to buy a home that's $500,000 or more. Then you're getting into the jumbo loans situation, and you got to put 20% down. And then is there going to be, you know, an 80% mortgage with a 20%, you know, variable rate arm, you know, things along those lines. And so the dynamic has changed a little bit from that standpoint, but houses are still being built.
Yeah,
there's still new construction going on, so that hasn't stopped laborers from building new homes. Agents are still showing homes, and homes are still being bought. And my buddy who lives next door to me is still getting, you know, applications every single day. So, you know, that's life is good.
We were talking, we actually talked about this a couple of days ago, and I know that this is going to make you chuckle that I'm bringing this up, but we are a Dave Ramsey team. The only reason I say that is once a month we get on a call, and it's us and, let's say, 8 to 10 other agents from around the country. So you're never on this coaching call with other agents in your market, right? And man, there is such a wide array. Like the lady in Pennsylvania, it's like locked down. She can't show a house. She can't, like, nothing.
Wow.
Versus, you know, let's say where we are in Tennessee, where real estate's been deemed essential. Really, the only thing that's not happening is open houses, but we're still, I had 2 homes go live today, probably an hour ago.
Wow.
It's really, really different.
It really does depend
where you're in the country. And some of that is going to depend on, obviously, what the government's doing, but I also think some of it depends on, like, I think they're probably hit a lot harder up in the Northeast, so it makes sense that they're locked down. Versus Tennessee, where it just hadn't been as big a deal.
Yeah.
So, you know, real estate is always very local anyway, and this is only magnifying that.
Sure.
But I don't think it's been as dramatic as some people would assume, and as dramatic as a lot of people in the industry were afraid it would be.
Right. Well, hopefully we're on the backside of that apex to where,
man, I hope so.
We're moving on to where we're getting back. It looks like it. I mean, I don't know that. Well, that's a whole nother discussion that I could get into. But
I hope so. But the person who really hopes so is my wife. Like,
yeah,
she has got to get the hell. This is me. This is my props to my wife.
Yeah,
for working her ass off with these kids day in and day out.
I want to make sure everybody understands that we would love for you to engage, comment, make song requests. We're going to pick a song here at some point. There are a few coming in. My buddy Tyler, I didn't like Ron at first. Oh, you know Gary?
I don't know Gary.
Okay, Gary. So I love Gary. Gary, God bless you. Thank you for watching, Gary. I appreciate it. Gary is over. Let's see. I'm going to screw this up. Universal. He's at Universal. Works in I believe he's in promotions at Universal.
Gary, if you did me and I'm saying I don't know you, I apologize for being an asshole.
Oh, that's all right. So Gary, but see how I met Gary is he was the vice president. I think that's the title. He was in charge of marketing for Remington Arms and Ammunition. And he was responsible for Heartland Waterfowl being sponsored by Remington. And then
Cool,
some
man.
things happened with Remington, and then he decided to get involved in the music industry, which is where his passion was. And we've kept in contact ever since because we have so much in common, being the music side and the hunting, guns, ammo, all of that. So I'm honored that Gary chimed in to say hello. Looks like I got a button.
Can I make a comment on his comment?
Yeah, please.
This is a nice succinct way to explain the final exit from music without having to tell like a massive story. Better to find a new passion than struggle as a road act. So having had some success with Love and Theft and having seen behind the curtain, so to speak, and realizing that this is a really cool job, but it is not magical and it doesn't give your life more meaning or anything. It's a cool career.
Right.
Having had all of that like mystery, sort of that mist, cleared and just seeing what it is, I remember suddenly realizing what it would take to be successful again, and realizing that the grand prize, if I am successful and I'm getting, let's pretend I end up back on a tour bus and going, okay, if it's going to take me 5, 6, 7 years of grinding on the road while my wife and my, at the time, probably 1-year-old son are at home, I don't want the prize bad enough. It's not worth it to me. I've already had the prize once. It was cool. And I'm okay with doing that again. And that, like, as soon as I realized that the cost to me personally was not worth it, I thought, that's the end. Why would you have to want it bad enough, because the freaking road sucks.
Yeah.
The road there is so hard. Not just the little road being on the road, but the path.
Yeah.
Sucks. It is so hard. And I finally went, oh yeah, that's right. I just don't think the end is great enough for me to do that again.
I can understand. It's not for everybody, man. I can totally see that. And look, I was kind of the same way in radio, which is not a terrible example, but I can kind of relate to it because, back when, you're single and you're going to concerts and backstage and partying all the time. I mean, granted, we're having some cocktails here, but it was partying all the time.
This is me partying right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
It's going down. But you're right. I think, man, I have so many friends who are still doing it. Obviously, the Love and Theft guys, Kanan Smith. At the time, I got to know Chris Young really well. Yeah. Like, I do not, in my mind, it's not a question of like, oh, they shouldn't be doing that. No, I think they clearly should. I was able to look at myself and go, man, I don't think I want it as bad as those guys do.
Sure.
They want it real damn bad. And I'm willing to admit, I don't want it as bad as they do.
Humility is so important in success. No matter what you're doing, you have to have humility. So, again, if I want to get back to the questions, we are taking requests. Brian is going to pick one song at the end here from your request that you send in and perform it live to end this live stream. One of the things post music, and even as of maybe the last couple of years being friends and following you on your social platforms, is your passion for creating content that is intended to be motivational and inspirational to those people who follow you. It's not necessarily about recruiting a buyer or selling a home. It's genuine, it's sincere, it's flat out personal development. And I can relate to that so much from when I left radio to pursue my dream of being self-employed and launching this TV show. And honest to God, I didn't really understand personal development until I got involved in a network marketing company, which was really only out of necessity is probably a strong word. It was necessity out of my own self-morale. Because my wife was making primarily all the money. I'm making nothing. I'm a stay-at-home dad with an infant. And this network marketing company comes along and I'm like, man, I'm not making any money. I got to do something just to make me feel like I have some self-worth and I'm providing in some capacity for this family. And it was there that I started kind of being introduced to the Eric Thomases and the Tony Robbins and later Gary Vaynerchuk, who I watch every single day. So talk about what your routine is for personal development, maybe how did personal development come, prior to music or during music, or was it after everything you went through?
It was after, man, it was sort of a gradual initiation into that. So my routine. So number one, I've got a morning routine that I stick to that really makes, man, like the difference between when I do it and when I don't is pretty dramatic. So I get up, I read a little bit of scripture, I pray. Then I go through some affirmations that I've written, and in brief, things where I'm saying them, first person present tense. So I am this. I am a successful real estate developer. I am, a handsome bald gentleman with a hunting show. I'm basically affirming, like, this is who I am. And some of it I actually am now, and some of it I'm becoming. So I do that. Then I go through, I review my goals every day. And man, here's the thing. I looked back at my goals that I wrote down, let's call it a year ago, and I probably hit half of them, is the truth. But they were big ass goals, and the ones I didn't hit, I still moved towards them and made a lot of progress.
Yeah.
I review those every day. It sort of keeps me focused. And then I wrote a page that is basically my big why. And it's when shit gets really hard and exhausting and I'm fed up and sick of it, why am I going to keep grinding? Why am I going to keep pushing? And it is the things that I know when I read them are going to, it's tearjerker stuff. It's like, here's what I want my sons to believe about themselves. Here's what I want my family to experience. Here are the things I used to believe, and here's what I'm not okay with for the future of my family. Stuff that when I read it, I'm like, oh, that's right. Okay, I'm ready to go to war right now. So that's one thing, is that I do that in my morning routine. The other two things that are, well, probably three things that are really prevalent. I'm physically active every single day. Every single day. Even on an off day, I'm still going to do something. I'm going to at least take a long walk. But I'm probably working out in some fashion. Let's call it 6 days a week. Not every single day is a hard, heavy day where I'm trying to, hit my max and whatever.
Sure.
I am pushing myself physically very frequently, and it's really good for my drive and my mental health, my emotional health, all that. Yeah. And I read obsessively. I read every single day, like very frequently. And I'm an extremely competitive person, which like anything can be a strength or it can be a weakness. For sure. The healthy version is when I am competing with myself. Or in a lighthearted way, I will use competition with others just personally, privately, to drive myself. So there are times when I'll be like, other people are watching TV right now. Other people are binge watching Netflix. I'm going to learn about this thing and I'm going to get ahead, So it is not the unhealthy version is that I will tie that to my self-worth. And then if I don't do that, I'll start beating myself up. Right. The healthy version is just going, no, I'm choosing to do this, and it's fun to grow, right?
Is it hard for you to separate the time invested in personal development and doing the things that you're talking about doing versus spending time with your family?
It's not. It could be. The reason it's not, and so going back to the big why, like hands down, the driving force in my life is the family experience that I want to create for my sons, and then of course for my wife and I as well.
Right.
And there's just nothing that makes me want to push more than that. And so those rarely conflict. It's not that they don't conflict time-wise, right? Like there's times when I'd rather not go do this thing for work and just hang out with my family, but I have to.
Right.
But rarely do I prioritize things over my family when I shouldn't. What I have to do is plan ahead. So that's why the answer is no. If I don't plan ahead, then it's a problem. But if I plan ahead and I go, okay, I know these are going to be my opportunities to read, listen to a podcast, whatever, whether it's, on my run or in my truck, or I just know that certain times are for certain things, right?
Right.
So like this hour, like I don't even have my phone on me because we're doing this, and I just want to be here and do this. And then if you need something from me, I'm going to have missed calls, and I'm going to go deal with them. There's my wife right there.
Hi, Mrs. Bandas.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry.
There's millions of people across the world watching you right now. Come into the room.
Oh my gosh. Well, I hope they appreciate the high fashion.
There's 7 people watching right now. It's okay.
Beautiful wife. I am in love with her, and she's hot.
She's beautiful, and I love seeing your guys' content that you put out there together. Quickly, when did it click? What was it that kind of gave you the aha moment when you wanted to engage or execute personal development?
Man, that's a good question. So,
second part of that question, I would say too, is what is your favorite book that you would recommend to somebody watching this? But you can answer that second.
Golly, everybody get ready to take some notes. So the aha moment, there's probably a couple, but one of them was when I had been learning about, and this was podcasts at the time, not books, but an early version of this was basically out of desperation. I start listening to podcasts about real estate development because that's an area, dude, I don't have a college degree. I don't even have an associate's degree. I don't even have enough hours for a 2-year degree. I got not only that, but I am really hard-headed. And just, I don't want to, I mean, everybody jokes like the entrepreneur is unemployable. That's not entirely true, but man, I'm not the ideal employee at all. And so I felt like, man, I have a lot of potential. I have a lot of drive. I love interacting with people. I do that well. But if I just try and go apply for some job, no matter how qualified I am, they're going to be like, what are you bringing to the table? You don't have anything on your resume. You don't have anything written down. I could sit here and be like, but I'm awesome. They're going to be like, we don't care. We don't know you.
Yeah. Right.
So real estate
I've sat in interviews like that, by the way.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it doesn't work. It might work now because I actually have things I could write down. I helped build a company and da-da-da. So I don't have a degree, but I have a track record. I didn't have any of that. I had nothing. And I had a wife and a kid and a new house that I bought before I knew that Lyric Street would shut down.
Yes.
So So I at least find real estate investing, and it is like I told you, like I described to you guys, man, if there is nothing else, you can grind your ass to success. Like you can freaking, dude, Craigslist, just calling, just ugly, it just ugly, gritty work. But you can take nothing but hustle and turn it into something. So I'm like, I'm going to do this thing. And I remember having a moment where I learned something from listening to a podcast that made me money. And it was just that like, oh shit. So I just know something and then I do it and then it can work. Gotcha. And that's it. That's the magic. You just learn things and then you do them. Yeah. Which is really what college is supposed to be, right? I don't know why employers emphasize it as much as they do.
I don't think they do it as much as they used to, or like when we were growing up.
No, I think you're right. I think it's starting to shift at least to some degree. And that's not really that's not a soapbox for me. I could care less. Things, God's been good and things have worked out fine. But that I had a moment like that. And I think it was probably on one of those 2 Craigslist houses where I am just trying to just hustle something out of thin air from stuff I heard on a podcast.
Yeah.
It worked. And one of them I made a lot. I mean, I don't know, that's relative, but I made good money on by being willing to take action of some kind. It might have been sloppy, but I was at least trying to move forward.
It's the start that stops most people. Execution is the word right there, man. I say that all the time. And hustle is such a cliche word anymore because you see people talking about, can't wait to get my hustle on. Or what. It is true though. Like, I remember starting the TV show and then getting involved in the commercial cleaning business. And I went, gosh, I don't know, at least 4 months, if not longer, before I even locked in my first deal on the commercial cleaning side.
Yeah.
And it was just the fortunes and the follow-up. The fortunes, that's why I kept telling myself. Learned that in network marketing, by the way, and just kept following up. And lo and behold, the hustle paid off. Yep. So there is a lot to be said. Book, tell us a book.
A book. Okay, man. So if you have not read it, you absolutely need to start with Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I've been there, done that one.
It's going to change the way you look at money, and hopefully change the way you think about money, and change some habits, and ultimately lead to at least some degree of financial independence. I think a lot of us want. Another one, when I hear that question, I try and think, okay, what did I read that didn't just inspire me, but I actually like changed something I was doing right away?
Yeah.
The One Thing is one of those for sure. And it basically talks about how do you prioritize your tasks. There's this little anecdote that a professor is putting things in a jar, right? And if you fill the jar with sand, you got no room for the big rocks. So you put the big rocks, then the medium rocks, then the pebbles, then the sand.
Yeah.
And finally, he pours a beer in, right? And so the one thing is that idea. It is a very practical look at how do you prioritize the big rocks, and then how do you prepare yourself emotionally for the fallout of, hey, if I prioritize the big rocks, some of the less important stuff might not happen. And I need to be okay with that because the big stuff happened.
Sure.
And that changed the way I approached my work, like pretty much on a dime. I changed some stuff.
Cool.
That was a good one.
I hope that you got time. I was hoping to keep this at an hour, but with the talking points I got, I'm wondering this is probably going to run a little bit long, but let's jump into the next one. I love talking to you about this yesterday, because one of the things that I have learned in my journey is when you're first getting started as an entrepreneur, and that's a word. I even hate saying entrepreneur because I'm not a millionaire by any means, but I'm self-employed, I guess is probably the best way to say it, but it's that mindset. And so I guess from that standpoint, I don't mind using the term, but I don't want to give anybody the false narrative that I am like, I'm not a shark that's going to be on Shark Tank, investing in people's ideas, at least not yet. So anyway, being self-employed, you're focused, you're hyper-focused on your goal and what you're trying to achieve. And then you get some success. And one of the things, again, that I learned in network marketing was giving more to others than you're expecting to receive. And I've tried to do a better job at that when I see people need help, when I see whether it's giving money or whether it's, mowing somebody's yard or just helping out, just doing little tiny things. You don't do it for the sake of wanting to get something out of return, but it's dang if it's not crazy how karma works in a good way where it will, somewhere down the road help you out, or you're passing a lesson on to somebody else that you've helped and they're going to help somebody else. So maybe talk about your development and your growth, how have you found gratification in helping others?
Yeah. So I think for me, there's two parts to the answer to this. So the first is that, as a business person, one of the things that I learned that was like, it was such good news to me was that generosity is the best way to do business, and it is the most effective way to do business. So even if I'm a totally selfish, D-bag, it's still most effective for me to be generous.
Right.
And that was a real relief for me, because one of my big hangups for the first year or two when I moved into doing real estate was, well, I don't want to be this like slimy salesperson, right?
Right.
What I learned was, actually, the best way to do my job is to just really, really care about people and communicate with them as effectively as I can figure out how.
Be authentic.
What sales is just me going, how can I serve you? If the answer is you can't, that's okay too.
Sure.
I might find out that like Ronnie doesn't really need a new house right now. He's just not trying to sell. He doesn't want to invest. And I just don't.
I just want 800 acres to hunt on. I mean,
yeah. So just discovering that generosity is the most effective way to do business was a massive relief to me.
Sure.
Because I was afraid that those who are successful are, as you just said, sharks, right?
Yeah.
That's just not the case. And that's not to say no sharks are ever successful.
No.
But for me, I've been able to build a business on it. And so one thing that you said that I really appreciated, and I will say, not in an arrogant way, is true, is that when I share development related stuff, there are absolutely no strings attached ever, period. I will hop on the phone with you for a half hour, tell you how to invest in a house successfully that makes you a bunch of money, and I will make zero, and that's fine. And the reality is that over time, that will pay dividends. I can't tell you how. I can't predict how. It might not be you that calls me. All I know is I create a consistent track record of just being a generous son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow it comes back. I develop a reputation of being an authentic, generous person, and it pays dividends. And so that takes some faith, especially at the beginning. And I think some people don't have the faith to take that leap, and they feel like, man, I'm not sure. I think I'll just keep being a shark, you know? But for me, it was such a relief to discover that if I'm just super generous, my needs are gonna be met, period. I can't predict exactly how they will be met. And that has proven for years now to be true. So that's the first part of the answer, is that realizing that generosity, much to my very pleasant surprise, is actually a super effective business strategy. Was like great news, because I can still just be a caring person.
Right.
The end. And a lot of times it'll benefit me monetarily, and all of the time it'll benefit me somehow.
Sure. It's not going to hurt you. How's it going to hurt you?
Right. Absolutely.
Unless you let them take advantage of you, I guess, which you're not. I mean, that's a whole different story. Being naive is different than being generous.
Right. We're not talking about naivety. We're not talking about getting run over. We're not talking about not standing up for yourself.
Sure.
And there's a really cool balance. I don't know that I can even tell you a time when somebody's run over me. I don't let that happen.
Right.
There is a way to do both. I can be generous and not be somebody's bitch.
Right.
I don't know if
I love the honesty. No, I love, because I am the same absolute 100% same mindset.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to jump on that. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I think it's important. And the reason, not only is it important in anybody who's wanting to pursue self-employment, it really holds true with any profession that you're in. It definitely holds true in self-employment, and it ultimately holds true in a time when there's a pandemic and a crisis.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really wanted to get that message across, that, you know, when you're out there kind of feeling like you got to fend for yourself, there is reward and gratification. And if you go into it thinking, well, what am I going to get out of it? You know, what are they going to do for me? Then you're ultimately not doing it for the right reasons, and you're not going to get anything out of it. And that's what I have learned, and I've found, and I've got stories I could tell, and I don't want to do that because this isn't about me. But it's
a little catch-22, you know?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
If you're looking out for yourself, you're probably screwing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's some people that are chiming. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to share one other thing on the generosity front, because this has been a big point of learning for me really, really recently. And I've been really focused on giving as something to drive my business, especially as I build some of the development stuff I'm doing. Really committed to giving a certain percentage of what I'm able to earn. And I sort of had this revelation recently where I thought, man, so I'm one of the organizations I'm talking to is called Veterans for Child Rescue. And I'm not necessarily going to hop on here and try and drive a bunch of people to that. Y'all can check it out if you want, but obviously they do operations to rescue children who are being trafficked. And a huge driver for me, like, I would love to be the guy that's kicking the door down and like just busting somebody. Like, I would love to smash somebody's head in who's trafficking children. That would be great. But I'm not a Navy SEAL. This guy, Craig Sawyer, who I've been talking to, is. Yeah. So that's his job. My job is, for whatever reason, I'm good at real estate. Yeah. And it gives me this drive to go, oh, they need $8,000 to like go whoop some ass. All right, then, you know what I can do? I can go figure out how to make $8,000 this next month that I can give to them, whether it's me or friends or whatever. Sure. And having my sights set on how I want to impact the world, and having peace about my role. My role is not door kicker downer guy. It just isn't. I wish it was. Sometimes that'd be cool, but it's not.
Yeah.
My role is I'm good at real estate investing.
Mhm.
So can I go do the thing I'm amazing at and play my role in rescuing children? Or it could be feeding homeless people, or it could be, drilling clean water wells, whatever it is. Finding peace around my role and then realizing that I can still have a really direct effect on that. I just had a conversation with these people that run this organization that started it. And I basically said, what does it cost you to do a sting operation? They were like, X amount of dollars. I'm like, perfect. I'll get back to you. I'm finding that money. And it gives me this drive that—
Tell me how much it is.
At least for this, for a couple operations that they're trying to prep to do, it's $8,000 each.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, I'm a freaking $8,000 to save some children. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Sure. If my direct thing is I got to figure out how to do some real estate so I can save some children.
Yeah.
So my 2 cents for those listening is, if you can't tell in my tone, I'm getting hyped right now. I'm gonna whoop somebody's ass. The way I can whoop somebody's ass is to do the thing I'm supposed to do really well. Sure. So I got on the phone today and I started calling people, and I'm like, I'm trying to do this deal. It's going to make this. Here's what we're going to do. And if I can get them to say yes, I'm going to fund a freaking sting operation, and we're going to take people down. So now my motivation isn't just like, let's make some money so I can go buy a 4-wheeler.
Yeah.
A little more powerful, Yeah. Will I buy a 4-wheeler at some point? Probably so.
Yeah.
That's okay too. Don't hear me say I'll never buy anything for myself, but that's just something I wanted to share.
I'm glad you did. No, that's great. And I definitely want to get more information on that. I think I've got a relative who actually majored in college in law enforcement with a specialty in or focus in trafficking. So I'd like to learn more about that. If you want to email me some of that information at some point. I wanted to touch on a few comments that are coming in. Yep. Tim is I love Tim. Tim is a solid dude. He's a local artist. And he said that he loves the vulnerability and the honesty of this, and says that he's enjoying it. Tyler somewhere here wanted to hear Angel Eyes. So I don't
believe this. This is not a joke. I do not know that song well enough to play it.
That's all right. That's all right. Tyler was asking if you are a Titans fan.
Yeah. So my number one, I grew up in Austin, Texas, so I'm a Cowboys fan.
Okay, that's what she said.
But my second, basically, I've been to a couple Cowboys games, but I have been in Nashville for over 15 years, and I've been to a ton of Titans games, and I love pretty much if they're not playing the Cowboys, that's my team.
Really? So you were cheering for the Titans against the Chiefs in the playoffs?
For sure. I didn't think they'd win, but I definitely.
Well, it was good talking to Brian today. We're going to go ahead and end the show. Just kidding.
You guys beat us, so we're okay.
Well, of course we did. Of course. I mean, did you question?
No, I didn't. Mahomes is glorious. That guy's. I can't.
We went 50 years without a quarterback, so it's about time.
Yeah.
Tim again. Runaway was my band's sound check tune for years. Nice. Isn't that cool?
That was a good song, man. I can't lie. I didn't write it, so I'm not really bragging when I say that. I played it a lot.
Courtney wants to know, you think we will?
She said, do we need to trade Dak? I think that's a big risk. You don't trade a great. I mean, I don't know if Dak's a Hall of Famer, right? He's a real good quarterback. I mean, one in hand's worth two in the bush, right? I don't know. Seems real risky to trade Dak.
I'm listening here. I'm just trying to read the comments that are coming in. I'm screening them before I put them up.
Jordan of country music. That's a good one. Who is George Strait? Who's your answer, Ronnie?
God. The Michael Jordan of country music.
I don't know. I mean,
George is up there. I mean, okay, so is it, that's like saying was Wilt better than Jordan? Is LeBron better than Jordan?
I could easily say, like, I love Willie Nelson. I love him so much.
Yeah.
Who's my favorite or who's the greatest? I mean, probably the king is George Strait.
So my opinion of that, there's no wrong answer. Yeah, I guess there could be. George Strait is definitely not a wrong answer. I would say Garth Brooks.
Yeah, I can see
and
that.
The reason I would say that is that Jordan was the first in basketball to put on a show. You know, like when you went to go see, you just didn't go see him shoot jumpers or just, do
He was
the sky hook. He was putting on a show, and Garth revolutionized putting on a show when it came to country music, in my opinion. So from that standpoint, I'd have to give it to Garth.
So maybe George Strait is Wilt,
There you go. Yeah.
Or Bird or somebody like that.
Not that George doesn't put on a good show, but Garth moves around a little bit more.
It's not quite. It's certainly not the level and type of entertainment that Garth brings.
What song what is this one? Oh, she's tagging her friend, wanting to know what song she wants to hear. With Brian, Didn't Run Away, but my favorite is Whiskey on My Breath.
That's one of my favorite songs they've ever done. For sure. Amazing song. I didn't write that either. I remember, that song was around when I was still in the band. I think like demos were floating around, and it was amazing. That one and a song called Amen also was around, and they were awesome. Tyler, let's go, dude. Let's go kick some doors in.
Kick some doors in. What else we got here? Courtney. Dancing in Circles was one of my favorites from you guys. Oh my God. That's a great song.
She is correct. I did sing the anthem in Kansas City, and the Cowboys did beat you guys. That was years ago. And I showed up with like Cowboys swag and gear on in the Chiefs box.
Why would you do that?
Because I'm from Texas, man. I'm a Cowboys fan. And they were like,
you're in Arrowhead Stadium?
Yeah. It was a blast. Tailgated out in the parking lot. It was awesome. I'm sure we tailgated together, I would assume.
Man, I'm trying to remember if there's a lot of things about that time in my life that I don't remember. And
that for sure.
But I don't remember that one.
Basically, my Steven and Eric and some of the guys like in our management that were with us were like, take that off.
Yeah. I would have been too. Now, I mean, you're in, Dallas, of course. It makes sense. All right.
They gave us these really cool Chiefs throwback hoodies. So I put on the hoodie and I have my Cowboys hat on and the Chiefs hoodie. It was a pretty reasonable.
I can't believe that. It takes balls to do that. So I'll give you that. All right. A couple more things to touch on before we wrap this up. There's not a lot of song requests coming in, which I'm really shocked with. So you might have to just pick one that you're comfortable with.
I will you to miss.
I saw what you were doing. I don't know how long you've been doing this now. It's got to be close to a year. Yeah. When you decided that do I call it a blog?
It's not really a blog.
It's kind of like a blog. It's just you're emailing it out, right?
Yeah. So every week I send an email. I've got a couple hundred guys. I don't know if all of them are married or not, but I send an email, and the content is around encouraging, challenging, inspiring, equipping men in their role as husband or future husband, potentially. Mm-hmm. How do you pour into your family, your marriage? How do you create the type of marriage and the type of family and home life that I think all of us long for? What was my motivation to help that? Man, so unfortunately, my family experience was not good. It was really painful and it fell apart. And so not only was it painful at the time, but for years I got to watch the fallout, and I got to watch my dad flounder in certain ways, and my mom, and both of them remarried, and I got to watch the struggles of both families emotionally, spiritually, financially. There was just fallout for years, for probably 15, 20 years. I'm 35. It still matters. It still affects me, and so I saw how it affected my parents' relationships with their family members, with my siblings, with myself. I saw how it affected the way that I related to my wife, and early on caught myself a few times taking my insecurities out on my own children. You know what I mean? And so I basically looked at this, and thankfully God has given me a just intense passion for my family. And that started early, long before I even had a family. Basically early in my teens, I was watching this play out. I'm like, this sucks. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
When it's my go round, it's going differently. And so really early in my life, long before I was ever married, I'm already thinking about my family and my marriage and what I want it to look like. And it's just a passion I've had forever. So,
It's cool.
man, fast forward and my friends all start getting married. This is actually around the time when I was in Love and Theft, and we had various people around us in their mid-20s starting to get married. I get married, Steve and Eric get married. And I'm just watching my friends and wanting to help and encourage and like just feeling this desire to go, man, it can be so good. It can also be so bad. And I want to help you guys avoid that.
Yeah.
And finally, a little over a year ago, started The Married Man. I send an email out on every Monday. I send a video out every Friday. And there's also like a private Facebook group, a couple of things. And it really is just around, man, it's pretty raw. Like it's definitely not like a sweet little touchy feely thing. I try to be honest about my experiences and my own flaws. I mean, my marriage there's no perfect marriage. It doesn't exist. And mine is not one either.
Right.
And so I just try and use those things and basically go, hey, you're not alone. And here's some things that might help.
That's awesome. Yeah, I get the emails too. And so, and the thing that I catch I subscribe to it.
List. That's awesome.
No, I'm on the list. I get them. And there are times where I'm like this, and I'm being raw here. So there are times when I want to read it. And then there's times where maybe I'm struggling and I don't really want to hear what Brian has to say on that particular moment. So I've got to do better, because I do think the content is good and it is helpful. If I can just get over myself and the times when I'm having whatever struggle it is I'm having on that particular day. But I think it's a cool, noble thing that you're doing. If people who are watching this, if there's any men who are, like Brian said, or getting married or want to, or are married, I would encourage it. It's all positive. It's raw, and there's some tough love there at times, I feel.
Man, that's me, you know what I mean? I don't think there would be tough love if I didn't need it. Like what you were just saying, man, I have those days where I'm supposed to be the one writing this, and I'm like, I suck at this right now. My wife and I like don't like each other right now.
And you're supposed to be the voice. Yeah, exactly. Right. So anyway, check it out at themarriedman.co. The last thing here before we have you perform, and I've kept you already 15 minutes later than I asked you to. So I was impressed with this in following you through your social platforms. Like I said, I love you, man. And I love what you're doing with your life and what you've done. And so naturally I'm intrigued and engaged with what your content that you post. And I will never forget when you and your wife were laying in bed and you made a video that made the announcement that you were going to pursue adopting a child from another country. Now forgive me because I don't know the child's name and I don't know the entire process. I did follow that. I do know that I was incredibly impressed and watched when you and Steven and Eric reunited at the Tin Roof. Was it at the Tin Roof that you guys did that?
We did a fundraiser. That was cool. Actually, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And so you got to, be a rock star again and get up and perform and do some of those songs,
man. Cause I straight up, I came to them and I was just like hat in hand, like I need your help. And of course, cause these guys for real, these are great, loving guys. They're awesome.
Yeah.
No, it was not, I didn't even have to ask. I mean, it was like, of course we're doing that for you. Done. Sure. Yeah, they're awesome. Man, that actually really ties into the giving thing. I heard a quote. I don't know that I could attribute it to anybody, but it basically said that like anything that we've been given is not for us. It's for the community around us. And that community can be as large or small as I don't know, as we feel led. Right. But so for me, I felt like, and this was part of that, like coming out of those 5 years or so that were so rough after Love and Theft, finally started to see this light at the end of the tunnel. And what I was doing in real estate investing and stuff was starting to open up. And we had gone from like, I'm talking barely scraping by, like barely, to, okay, now we can breathe. Okay, now we've got a little bit of a cushion. Now, we've got 2 boys now at the time. really, they're all healthy. Our marriage is great. We live in a home now that we really are thankful for, and it's a nice home. And we kind of looked around and went, man, we are so fortunate. Why are we so fortunate? And that quote came to mind. I thought, oh, well, we're so fortunate because we're supposed to give this in some way to the world around us. And man, Kelly and I were sitting having dinner at a place called Jonathan's. I think it was a date night. So it was just the two of us. And in 2 minutes, we went from saying, man, we are so lucky. What do you think we should do? I go, I think maybe we should adopt. And she was like, yeah, I do too. Boom, done. And we just like, okay, well, you were already thinking that.
Prior discussions about adoption before that meal?
Probably in the course of our marriage, at some point we had said, I would adopt someday. Would you ever adopt? I don't know. I guess I'd probably consider it. Like that was probably it at some point, but no, not really. And she basically, so I said, maybe we should adopt. And she kind of went, oh my gosh. Like she had a moment of prayer at church, like a week or two before, felt like she felt conviction about adopting, but was like, I don't know about that. Like prove it, and then we're sitting over a beer and I'm like, maybe we should adopt. And she just kind of, face went white, Yeah. So we just said, all right, that's what we're supposed to do. The process is the worst. And it took a long time.
Yeah, how long was it?
Probably took us like 2.5 years. Wow. Man, thankfully I talked to a friend. So the first person I told was not even a family member. It's a friend of mine who had just adopted, like a couple weeks before they had gotten their son. Mm-hmm. So I call him. I'm like, actually, Blaine Larson. Do you know Blaine Larson, country singer?
Yes.
It was Blaine.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I also remember the guy who pushed him, Scotty Michaels.
Really?
Scotty Michaels was, oh my gosh. Scotty's, on with Kenny and I love Scotty Michaels. And he was pushing Blaine. Blaine is a good, he was a kid at the time. I don't know. He's a grown man now, but yeah, go ahead.
Salt of the earth. So I call Blaine. I'm like, and here's the funny thing. We didn't even meet through music. Sheer coincidence. We met through.
Really?
Yeah. So I called Blaine. I'm like, man, I know you guys just adopted. We just decided we're going to adopt. But in the next couple of years. And he goes, well, if you're going to adopt in the next couple of years, start now. I'm like, I don't know about that. But so we took his advice and we started. Thank God.
Yeah.
Well, number one, we'd probably still be waiting because of this freaking coronavirus.
Sure.
But even that, man, like it took so long. It was it's an awful process. So we'll just leave it at that. But man, thank goodness. So he was the first person I called. He goes, you just need to start today. Just trust me. Yeah. It's going to take way longer than you think. Start now. It'll time out. And he was dead on. And man, what did I learn from that? It just ties into the generosity, man. Like I was caught for so many years in just, it was fear-based of like making sure I get mine because I'm so afraid that I won't be taken care of. When I let go of that and move towards generosity, everything opened up, business-wise, personal, adoption, everything.
I can only imagine, just based on the relationships that I have with people who have adopted and the roller coaster ride that you're on. I mean, I've heard horror stories actually of people who are like, they get the pictures, they get the information, they know the kid's name, they think it's going to dump. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, nope, not happening. And they fall in love with this kid. And now and the idea that they're going to bring this kid home and last minute something happens and it doesn't work out. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting story. I really loved the way you told it and you announced it and the way the guys all came together to do the benefit. Yeah. I thought that was really super cool. And so I don't know, there's probably people out there who are having fertility issues. And if considered adoption, and we're definitely not, I'm not bringing this up to scare them by any way, shape or form, but it is a process and
if you're called to do it, you're called to do it, period. And so you go through, you just do it. You just do the process. It sucks. Okay. And you get over it and you move through it. And I think, that's how we felt when I remember when Kelly and I decided, we were sitting down. I remember telling her, hey, we're like basically volunteering for like heartbreak and frustration, and like we're going to have some really bad times, just guaranteed by deciding to do this. And and we said, yeah, so we know that, and we're prepared for it.
Yeah.
And it did. It sucked. There was like tears and hard moments, and there still are. He's here now. The hard work started when he got here,
Of course.
But man, if it's what you're called to do, you just do it. I mean, it's what you're called to do.
You want something bad enough. We were talking about that hustle, you just hustle through it.
It really, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
My wife gets the credit, man. She did, for real. This is not just me being nice. She probably did 98% of the work on that.
Kudos to her.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Man, I've kept you so late. You want to do a song?
Sure.
I mean, there's been a few people that talked about some of the old Love and Theft songs, but if you got one, I think being that our relationship kind of started with music, and we've both kind of taken similar journeys where, although I wasn't a musician, I was involved with playing your guys' music, and then leaving it to do my own thing. You left music to do your thing, and kind of brings it full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think Courtney requested You to Miss, and I haven't played that in a long time. So bear with me.
You think you can do it?
I legitimately don't know. That sounds like a joke, and it's not really. But all right, so let's see here. Y'all bear with me a moment. To be safe, for real, I have to Google my own lyrics and make sure I don't.
That's all right. I mean, if you got a better song that you would feel more comfortable doing, you can do that as well. I just thought it would be fun.
Let's go for it.
I'm gonna mute my mic.
All right. Hang on a moment. Hang on. Here we go. Some people try to hide, they try to move on, stand the pain of you gone. But baby, that's not me. I never try to ease the ache that I feel. Pain reminds me how real this love has come to be. And I'm not running scared. I will stay right where I gave you my word that I would be. And I don't wanna hurt, but I know I have to feel. Do it to be close to you, just to keep you real. And I don't wanna cry, tears are part of life. Conquer the impossible, make you feel alive. I'm so glad, my love, that I have you to miss. Some people try to fake like they don't feel this. Stand to face the realness. I lost my place here, Ronnie. Hang on, don't judge me. Told you it's a little rough. Let's see. What is it? People try to fake like they don't feel this. Can stand to face the realness. So they just run away. Oh, but I want nothing more than you to hold me. So intimately know me. So hurt along the way. But I'm not running scared. I will stay right there. I need you my way. I would be. I don't wanna hurt, but I know I have to feel. Do it to be close to you, just to keep it real. And I don't wanna cry. deep. I would ever want to leave. I don't wanna hurt, but I know I have to feel. Do it to be close to you, just to keep you. And I don't wanna cry. Tears are part of life. Conquer the impossible. Make me feel alive. I'm so glad, my love, that I have you to miss. I'm so glad, my love, that I have you to miss. I'm so glad, my love, that I have you to miss.
Beautiful, my man. I love you, dude. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Really, really, really do appreciate you taking the time. And it's 30 minutes longer than I thought it was going to be, but I enjoyed every single. Put some clothes on your kid. I thought you're making money, and I mean, he's walking around without a shirt on.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
This was cool. So just to remind everybody, this is something new that I've just kind of decided to do, and try to something that was a little bit more unique than just a podcast or going live on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, LinkedIn. I want to thank you going to bring your other kid in there? Yeah,
this is my
there. Oh, there he is.
Hi. Say hi to my friend.
Hello. Say hi. Hi.
We gotta let him talk for a minute though, okay?
He wants to play the piano. Courtney says thank you, by the way, and so many others.
Courtney, you're awesome. You have been a faithful Love and Theft fan for a long time.
Yes, she has. Brian, best of luck to you, man. I love you, and if you ever need anything from me, don't hesitate to reach out. Take care.
Love you, buddy. Thank you for having me. I'm honored that you even thought of me. I appreciate it.
Take care.